In this video, I'm going to talk about solving exponential equations. Now, we're going to look at this without having to use opposite operations at this point in time. So we're just going to be thinking about these kind of problems logically, okay? So, the first one, 2 to the power of x equals 32. Well, you basically just count it out. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So therefore, x equals 5. The next one's slightly trickier. Another thing that we can do rather than just thinking through our answer like that is we can write these with the same base. So 4 to the x take 2 is equal to 4 to the power of 4. And because we have the same base, that means that we can equate the indices. So x minus 2 must equal 4, and so therefore x equals 6. The next one is a similar situation. Again, we want to write these with the same base so that we can then equate the indices. So I'm going to write this as 3 to the 2x minus 4 equals 3 cubed to the power of x minus 1. You might remember from the index laws that when we have powers like that, we just multiply them through. So we get 3 to the 3x take 3. And I can now equate those indices, so 2x take 4 equals 3x take 3. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides and add 3 to both sides, which is going to give x equals negative 1. Question D is a bit of an interesting one. So this one looks fairly challenging, and what I'll say is it's a fairly common type of problem, particularly in year 12, so it is a fairly advanced sort of problem, but we'll just work through it and we'll see what happens here. So firstly, I'm going to try and make it so that there's a common base here. We have a base 4 in the middle of the equation just there, so I'm going to try and make this here base 4 as well, which I can do because 16 is just 4 squared. So that's 4 squared to the power of x minus 3 times 4 to the x minus 4 equals 0. Now that then becomes 4 to the power of 2x minus 3 times 4 to the x minus 4 equals 0. And hopefully this looks pretty quadratic to you. We've got something to the power of 2, we've got something to the power of 1. So what I'm going to say is let 4 to the x equal a. That means I've got a squared minus 3a minus 4 equals 0. We can hopefully factorise that fairly easily by finding two numbers that multiply to give negative 4 and add to give negative 3. So that should become a minus 4, a plus 1 equals 0. Using the null factor law, that means that a equals 4 or a equals negative 1. Now remember that a was 4 to the power of x, so 4 to the x is equal to 4, or 4 to the x equals negative 1. Well, obviously the first equation, 4 to the power of x equals 4, x must be equal to 1. Okay, the second equation, 4 to the x equals negative 1, actually has no solution. And the reason that it has no solution is think about what the graph of 4 to the power of x looks like. I'm going to draw a very rough sketch here, incredibly rough. There it is right there. Okay, it doesn't pass below the x-axis, so it can never reach a value of negative 1. So that's why there's no solution. And so we have our answer, x is equal to 1. Part E, 5 to the power of x equals 40. You could approximate this because we know that 5 to the power of 2 is 25. So we know it's going to be a little bit more than 2. Okay, but just going to use the calculator to do this. So 5 to the power of x equals 40, and then highlight it and solve. So interactive equation solve. Oh, now that's a bit nasty, so we'll change it from standard to decimal and just try that again. And we get x is 2.29. There's only really one other type of problem you might get, and that's an inequality. So that might be something like 3 to the power of negative 2x plus 4 less than 1/27th. So as with all of the other problems, we want to write this here so that it has a common base. And so I'm going to go 3 to the power of negative 2x plus 4 less than 1 divided by 3 cubed, which, using the index law for the negative powers, we know that's just 3 to the power of negative 3. So now I can equate those powers. So negative 2x plus 4 is less than negative 3. So we can subtract 4 from both sides. And then divide by negative 2. And remember, when you divide by a negative with an inequality, that you have to change the direction of the inequality. So that becomes 7 on 2. And there we have it. Anyway, I think that's all there is for solving the inequalities. So, and also solving the equations. I'll leave it there and see you next time.